Dead Sea Scrolls shed light on a number of important and relevant issues to the Catholic Church. One of these is the whole issue of the Reformation. And you might think, well, what could the Dead Sea Scrolls possibly have to do with the Reformation? Actually, a quite significant, important issue. It has to do with salvation by faith alone. As you may recall, this was one of Luther's rallying cries during the Reformation. He claimed that our salvation was by faith alone, in part because he read St. Paul in the letters to Romans and Galatians when St. Paul would discuss the issue of the works of the law. St. Paul makes it very clear that we are not justified or saved by works of the law, but by God's grace. Now, Luther interpreted the phrase works of the law to refer to any human effort. Therefore, he derived his doctrine of salvation by faith alone. In other words, that salvation is by faith and no human effort plays any role in our salvation whatsoever. Now, this was contrary to traditional Catholic understanding based on the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas. When St. Thomas Aquinas read St. Paul talking about works of the law, St. Thomas understood works of the law to refer to the Old Testament rituals or ceremonies. In other words, St. Thomas said that St. Paul taught us salvation is not by observing Old Testament rituals and ceremonies, but by faith in Jesus Christ. Good works, however, which are not the same thing as works of the law, do have a role in our salvation. So this is the classic debate between Lutherans and Catholics, or more generally between Protestants and Catholics. What does St. Paul mean by works of the law? Is it any human effort, or is it the Old Testament ceremonies? Here's where the Dead Sea Scrolls become relevant. Among the scrolls was discovered a letter that is known by scholars by the initials 4QMMT. This is a letter from the Pharisees, from the Essenes to the Pharisees in Jerusalem. It contains the only use of the phrase works of the law outside of St. Paul's writings in any ancient literature. Therefore, it's of great significance. And the question is, what context do they use the phrase works of the law? What did works of the law mean to the Essenes? When we look at this letter, we find that works of the law meant to them ceremonies like the proper observance of handling of corpses, how to treat dogs, how to treat leather, the purity of liquids, and a whole bunch of other cleanliness rituals that come straight out of the laws in the Old Testament found mostly in the book of Leviticus. So in summary, the only use of the phrase works of the law outside of St. Paul in the ancient times comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And in the Dead Sea Scrolls, works of the law refers to the ceremonial observances of cleanliness. It does not refer to good deeds or works of mercy. Therefore, this supports the traditional Catholic understanding of St. Paul that St. Paul does not say works of mercy or good works have no role to play in our salvation, but rather St. Paul is saying the observance of ceremonies and rituals from the Old Testament pale in comparison to faith in Jesus Christ. It's not by the ceremonies and rituals that we'll be saved, but by faith in our Lord. And His love works in us to do works of mercy, works of love, which do have a role in our salvation.